Welcome to I'll Be There, the ultimate wedding podcast by Priya
and Nim
from Pristine Events. Whether you're a bride-to-be
or a groom gearing up
or just a wedding lover at heart, we've got you. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of I'll Be There. I'm Priya.
And I'm Nim.
And today we are talking about
alcohol.
Nim's favourite topic. So
that makes me sound like a drunk.
No. Can I just do a little disclaimer first, guys? If any of you are watching this, we just got soaked in a storm. It was 24 degrees and then decided to pour down as we walked here. So just wanted to put that out there.
I thought the disclaimer was going to be about if you don't drink alcohol, this is probably not going to be relevant to you.
That's also a really good disclaimer. But actually, we can talk about mocktails and like alcohol alternatives. So it could still be useful for non-drinkers.
True. Very true.
So yeah, let's just jump right in because there's loads to talk about. So I feel like alcohol and drinks at a wedding, especially if you as a couple like to drink, is a really big part of your wedding. And it's also the part when everyone kind of, I suppose, chills out a bit more, when everyone's like, when the ceremony's done, the formalities are done, and then it comes to the drinks and the dancing.
That's when the party starts.
Yeah, exactly. And
party.
Huh?
Party.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like there's so many decisions to make. Where do you start when deciding?
I mean, I think at the beginning you need to decide whether you're going to have an open bar, you're going to have a cash bar, or arguably you're going to have no bar.
Yeah.
I think let's not talk about the no bar option, or we can talk about that when we discuss mocktails.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it's going to be open bar versus cash bar. And I think, I say this a lot, but I think there's a cultural aspect to it.
Yeah.
At least mainly with Asian weddings, that there is the assumption that the bar is going to be an open bar.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I agree. I actually can't think of a single wedding that we've
attended
or we've been to that I've even taken my like card holder.
Yeah.
To be able to buy, like, I think I'd be really taken aback if I went to the bar and they like took out the card holder for me the card machine for me to tap. I wouldn't know what to do, just because it's not something we've kind of been used to or been to. That being said, I know that a lot of weddings do have them there, or they do like parts of the wedding which is covered for by the couple, and then the remainder of the night is a cash bar, which is kind of a nice way to do both. Yeah,
so like the drinks reception, you might have Prosecco and beers, which are free, and then if you want to buy spirits, then that's something that you buy from the cash bar.
Yeah, or you have like the wine on the tables, and that's included as well, and then anything additional is, like you said, at the bar, which is a good way to, I suppose, kind of mix it up. When you're deciding between the two, I guess it mainly comes down to budget.
Yeah.
I know this is a really generic question. I know our couples ask us this all the time, but what would you roughly say budget-wise to put towards a bar or alcohol at your wedding? And I know there's so many different factors.
I mean, I think there's too many variables to just give a ballpark figure. I think it depends on the three different options. So, I mean, you've got the venue providing the alcohol. So I think that's, in my opinion, the least preferable option.
Yeah.
So that's when typically you're forced, I think that's the right word to use. You're forced to basically use the venue's alcohol. So you're either the venue are charging per drink that they're providing, and that's normally going to be like central London prices or like typical bar prices. So they'll be charging like £5, £6 a single.
Yeah.
And then they bill the client for it at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Which is obviously very pricey. The alternative to that, if the venue's providing the alcohol, is if they charge you a per person head figure.
Yeah.
Hopefully, and for the most part, they won't charge for kids. And unfortunately, they won't take into account if you say, oh, by the way, 50 people aren't drinkers. They will just charge for all the adults who are drinkers. And it might be anywhere from sort of £20, £25 a head upwards.
Yeah.
It can be pretty pricey. So that's the least preferable option. But sometimes, depending on the venue, you might have to use their alcohol and buy the alcohol off them.
Yeah. And that's why, on that point quickly, if alcohol and the bar is a big deal when it comes to your wedding, when you're picking your venue, that's a really big thing to highlight and to look into.
For sure. And I think the second option, and I'd say in my opinion, in the last 5 years, this is less common, but definitely still happens, is when the couple provide their own alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you go to a cash and carry, you go to Costco, you go to some dodgy relative, and you basically bulk buy all the alcohol that you need.
Yeah.
And then you get either the venue or your catering team to provide all the alcohol, to pour all the alcohol.
Yeah.
So that probably rules out cocktails. For the most part, the caterer or the venue aren't going to make bespoke cocktails based on stuff that you bought. Not impossible, but for the most part, that is the case. That we're going to come on to shortly in terms of how you budget for that, because obviously you want to know how much that's going to cost. And I think the final option is when you get an independent bar company.
Mm-hmm.
Now, an independent bar company can either pour drinks for you and make cocktails for you and you provide the alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
or they provide everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you pay them an X amount, which is probably going to be in the thousands depending on how many people you have, and they will bring the alcohol. They will hopefully ensure that none of the alcohol runs out. They'll be responsible for transporting it there, taking it back home, and you don't need to worry about any of it. There's pros and cons to each of them. As I said already, I think the venue providing it is probably the least attractive option, but sometimes that's something that you have to go with.
Do some venues then charge corkage
Yeah.
on top?
So if you're providing all the alcohol and you're bringing all the booze, then sometimes they might say, look, you don't have to use our alcohol at the venue.
Yeah.
You can bring your own, but
Mm-hmm.
per bottle we're going to charge £5.
Yeah.
And you need to do the maths and work out whether that's more cost effective or less cost effective. For the most part, it probably is going to be more cost effective. But what's frustrating is that you're paying on top of what you've already paid for the alcohol
Yeah.
just to drink it in their premises. But it is what it is. And I think for destination weddings, that's very common. If a hotel or venue abroad has a bar and you want to bring your own alcohol, they're going to charge you corkage.
Yeah. Are there some exceptions if the hotel or venue don't offer that particular spirit or...
Yeah, so that's what happened with us when we had our destination wedding. They made exceptions to say, look, if we don't supply that alcohol or that particular brand of alcohol, you can bring your own.
Mm-hmm.
But they still charge corkage for that.
Yeah.
We got charged corkage on the brands that they didn't supply. If the venue and our venue supplied a certain brand, we had to get it off them.
Okay, fine.
So what I did personally is that I looked at all the brands that they served and they were charging quite a premium for it. And then I found similar brands or alternative brands that I'm happy to drink. I think our guests would be happy to drink. I found a source for that, how much that was going to cost, added on the corkage to see how much that is versus the alcohol that they were providing.
Yeah.
And for the most part, we ended up just bringing our own alcohol, slightly different brands. So for example, if they supply Jack Daniels, we then provide some other equivalent.
Okay, fine. So basically you just have to do a lot of maths.
Yeah. I mean, not a lot of maths, but like some maths.
Yeah, fine, which makes sense. And of the three options,
Yeah.
I know what I typically say to couples, but I think you agree with me in the sense that if you can, you'd always say to recommend to go for a bar company.
Yeah, I think just getting a bar company just takes a load off your mind. It's very easy to look at it and say, okay, look, let's just say a bar company is going to charge you, and this might be a scary figure to some people, they're going to charge you £5,000.
Yeah.
And that's going to be for your Prosecco, your beers, your cocktails during the drinks reception, and then during the wedding itself, they're going to provide all the beer, all the spirits, all the mixers, everything. And that's going to sound like a lot, because what you're going to do as a couple, you're going to think about it and you say, wait a second, that's for, I don't know, 300 people. You're charging, almost £20 a head. That's a lot of money. And a £20 a bottle, not every person is drinking a whole bottle of alcohol.
Yeah.
But you can't think of it like that.
Yeah.
What you're also paying for is the logistics
Agree.
of them bringing everything, taking everything home. That's a massive load off your mind. They're also providing all the ice, or hopefully they're providing all the ice, or they're spoken to the venue and then they're going to sort out all the ice situation. They're also hopefully going to make cocktails, which just adds another level to another dimension to the wedding. And sometimes they can do some other quirky things that we'll come on to later on, which make the event a bit more special as well, rather than just providing alcohol or just providing the spirits.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I generally recommend bar companies to our couples as well. I think from like you said, mainly logistical point of view, a lot of couples just think, oh, I can just go to Costco's, I can get the alcohol, we can bring it and the caterers can serve it. And in theory, yes, absolutely that works. However, what you've got to think about is, first of all, working out all the alcohol to buy. Once you've worked that out, how are you going to transport that? Especially if you're going to like a central London venue or a really kind of difficult to access type of venue. How is that then going to be unloaded? Because if it's on the wedding day, for example, all the bridal party are going to be busy getting ready or, doing things. They can't really be in the car park, like unloading all the alcohol. Then you need someone to count it all and make sure it aligns with what you've agreed to have been sent. Then obviously it needs to be served by the caterers, and they also need to kind of be checking off what's there, and they're also not responsible, for example, if a particular spirit runs out or something. And guests can get a bit frustrated if they want a whiskey and it's already finished. And then at the end of the night, it's who's responsible then for packing it all up, doing a sign off again to be like, this many bottles of X, Y, and Z are left, and then if you aren't staying at the venue, then transporting that back or putting it into a car that's going to be transported back. So there's just so many additional things that I think people don't think about, because in their head they're like, oh, we'll just do a Costco's trip and it'll be fine.
Just don't compare like for like. Don't compare one price to the other price, because you're paying for two different services. You're paying for two different things, not just the booze on the table.
No, I agree.
So yeah, I mean, we've briefly touched on the venue providing the alcohol, and essentially, if you can avoid that, avoid it.
Yeah.
And let's go a little bit into bringing your own alcohol. So this is a question we get asked all the time: how much alcohol do we buy?
Mm-hmm.
And I've written about that in one of our newsletters.
That was a really popular one, actually.
It was a really popular one. And I am going to use my notes for this because it is a formula that I have sort of made up, but it's tried and tested and seems to work, and a lot of our couples have given some good feedback about it. So essentially what I do is if you're having a drinks reception, you look at the drinks reception and you look at your numbers, your total numbers, and you say, okay, we've got, for example, 200 guests coming.
Mm-hmm.
You work out of those 200 guests, how many of them are drinkers, any sort of drinkers. Do you drink alcohol? Okay, so let's assume 75% drink.
Mm-hmm.
So 75% of 200 is 150.
Yeah.
Okay, so 150 people are drinking, and I think, and people think that this is an overestimate, that you should account for 2 glasses and 2 bottles per person. Okay, so each, that's assuming that, say, in a 1.5 hour, 2 hour drinks reception, which is probably on the longer side, each person is having 2 glasses of Prosecco and 2 bottles of Peroni, or 2 bottles of beer.
Yeah.
Okay, I know they're not actually drinking 2 full glasses and 2 beers in that short period of time, but you have to bear in mind that, and we'll come on to this in a second, that when guests go to a wedding or a place and they're not paying for the alcohol and somebody else is paying for it, unfortunately, they will get a glass, they'll start drinking it, they'll put it down, and they'll lose it.
Yeah.
And they'll get another one.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to factor that in.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a lot. So, I mean, based on that assumption, 150 drinkers, that's going to be 300 glasses of champagne and 300 bottles of beer.
Yeah.
So that obviously sounds like a lot, but just bear in mind the 300 bottles of beer, that will cover your drinks reception, but then also you're going to put it behind the bar when the actual event starts.
Mm-hmm.
And similar with the Prosecco. If people want a glass of Prosecco, they'll still have it. Okay. I think with all of these calculations, you know, this is based on my friend group and weddings that we've done, and couples have given good feedback about it, and for the most part there isn't a huge amount of wastage. One thing that I would say is to make sure that if you are buying alcohol and you think that there might be excess, just make sure that you can return it and find a place that do return. So make sure you're not opening all the boxes when you are putting things into the fridge. Just put the whole box in the fridge rather than opening the box, taking the bottles out, because then it might void your returns. Then it becomes a bit more complicated. I actually think this is easier to read from the newsletter, so please sign up to the Pristine newsletter and we can send it out again soon. But yeah, you need to decide whether you're gonna, what types of alcohols you're gonna get, what types of spirits you're gonna get. Now, don't try and cater to every single guest who's there. Okay, so you know, if you're gonna start trying to provide alcohol as if you are an actual bar, then you're going to be buying lots and lots of alcohol, and there's going to be a lot of waste to provide all the different types of whiskey, rums, vodkas, gins. You know, just pick what you think guests are going to drink, and I think for the most part that's going to be vodka, gin, whiskey, maybe rum.
I think rum seems to be quite popular.
Yeah, so
especially
I mean,
with
what
the Gen Zs.
Yeah, so I mean, again, you know, not you, but like couples know their guests more than anybody else, so you need to make that decision. We can't make that decision for you. But essentially, you decide kind of what your split is, and whether you're going to have what I call sort of the browns, which are the whiskies and the brandies, and then you've got your whites, which are your vodkas and your gins. And then I've got the other category, which I call other. So that's rums, flavoured spirits, those sorts of things. Okay. Then, and this is where it gets a bit more complicated. So again, I think this is easier to read, but I'll still say it out loud. You need to split your guests up into whether they're heavy drinkers or light drinkers. Okay. So when I say heavy drinkers, this is going to sound excessive, but my definition of heavy is in a 4 to 5 hour drinks reception. That's having 8 drinks. That's 8 doubles.
So basically,
one every half an hour.
I mean, that's
a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But what I said earlier is that people are going to get a drink.
Yeah.
They're going to put it on their table. It's going to get mixed up.
True.
They're going to leave it in the toilet.
True.
And then they're going to get a new one.
Agree.
And that's why I'm saying that you need to factor in 8.
Yeah.
Similarly, if there's light drinkers, I'd say 3. And I think that's pretty conservative.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think on balance, you're kind of covering all bases.
Yeah, average out.
So, I mean, assuming what I said earlier, so 75% of them are drinkers, you then have to work out who's a heavy drinker and who's a light drinker, who's a big drinker, who's a light drinker. So in a typical estimate, I'd say maybe there might be 50 big drinkers of the 150.
Yeah.
And 100 who are light drinkers.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you've got your 50 big drinkers.
Yeah.
Okay, they're each drinking 8 drinks.
Yeah.
Then you've got your 100 light drinkers.
Who are drinking
light
3.
inverted commas, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Catching on.
I think this is easier to follow for me now.
Okay, that's good. And so that's 400 drinks for the heavy drinkers, so 50 times 8.
Yeah.
and 300 drinks for the light drinkers. Okay, so that's 700 drinks.
Yeah.
Okay, but each drink is a double.
Yeah.
And in the UK, a double is 50 mils.
Yeah.
I think in Europe and maybe in the US it's 60 mils, but let's just assume everyone
Yeah.
listening to this is from the UK.
Yeah.
So that's 50 mils. So 700 drinks,
Yeah.
50 mils each.
Yeah.
So that's 35,000 milliliters. So that's 35 liters
Litres.
of alcohol.
Yeah.
Which, do you think that sounds like a lot?
So
That's
are we
35.
assuming it's like the 1 litre bottle, like the 1
Well, yes,
litre
35
bottles?
litres is 1 litre bottle. Yes.
I know. I'm just trying to imagine it in my head. Yeah. Okay. I think that's fine. As in,
Yeah.
and that's and then that 35 litres covers.
So that 35 litres is all the spirits that you're
Yeah.
going to get.
Yeah. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So that you then have to determine, depending on your guests,
Yeah.
how you're going to split that between what I called your browns and your whites and your
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like to think that the browns and the whites, i.e. the vodka, gin, whiskey and brandy,
Yeah.
are your most common drinks.
Yeah.
And your rums and your flavoured spirits, your less common ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you need to decide amongst that how you're going to split things. So I would say in a typical crowd, so we've now got 35 1 litre bottles.
Mm-hmm.
I split that as the most common being your whites, i.e. your vodkas and your gins.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, this completely depends on your crowd.
Yeah.
If you have, and I don't want to stereotype here, if you have an older Punjabi crowd,
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot of whiskies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you have perhaps a younger crowd, I think you might have more sort of vodka. So vodka soda is a very common drink, gin and
Yeah.
tonic. So that's
Yeah.
going to be a bigger split. So I would say, based on most of the couples and the weddings that we do, it's going to be predominantly your vodkas and your gins. So I would split that as having 20 whites, so 14 vodkas, 7 gins,
Yeah.
12 browns, that's 8 whiskies and 4 brandies, and then 3 others, that's 3 rums.
Okay.
So that's 12 plus 20 plus 3, that makes 35 bottles of alcohol.
Got it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Does that all make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So then we come on to the mixes, okay?
Okay.
Again, same with what I said before. Don't get too much variety. There's lots of different things that you can mix with. There's cranberry, there's different juices,
Yeah.
there's squashes, there's Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Diet Lemonade, regular lemonade, Slimline
I do
Tonic.
think obviously as a dentist, but I do think people are wanting the diets and the Coke Zeros or Sprite Zeros. I think it is important to have a zero.
No, I agree, but then I think you should just get zeros.
Okay, yeah, fine. You don't
I just don't
necessarily
think you
need to have a
need
diet.
regular lemonade
Yeah.
and then Lemonade Zero or
Yeah.
Sprite Zero, whatever it's called.
If it was up to me, I'd sack off the full fat like Cokes and lemonades anyway. They taste the same.
All right, Jamie Oliver.
I'm just saying, it's just so much sugar. But yeah, anyway, yeah, no, I agree. I don't think you need a huge variety. I would say, I don't know, what would you say in terms of the?
Was in terms of the drinks that you need.
Yeah.
So I would say I weirdly think that people do like drinking full fat Coke. I say full fat. It's not fat. It's sugar, but whatever. Full sugar
Yeah.
Coke.
Yeah. Normal
So
Coke.
people seem to often get that. So Coke. And I think Coke Zero. I don't think you need Diet Coke.
Yeah.
And then I personally would get Sprite Zero.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get a
Normal.
full sugar lemonade.
Right, yeah, fine.
And then a soda water, tonic water, and then a juice.
Just one juice.
Yeah, I don't think you need cranberry juice and orange juice. It depends. If you've got a big non-drinking crowd, then I think you should have a variety.
Yeah.
But if you're just solely catering for your drinkers,
Yeah.
I just don't think you need to offer all the different types of juices for them.
Yeah. Fine.
And then on top of that, one thing I didn't mention is that you also need to get your sort of niche mixes and just a couple of that. And I think you drink ginger ale these days.
I love ginger ale.
So I think you need to get a few bottles of ginger ale. But
Wait, did you mention tequila as one of the spirits?
no, so that was what I would consider in your kind of shot section.
Okay. Interesting.
Why?
I don't know. I just feel like I'm in my tequila era right
Well,
now.
again, that could be under your other drinks, right?
Yeah.
Your rums, your flavoured spirits. Like,
Yeah.
I think it is becoming more common, and perhaps
Mhm.
it shows a sign of my age that I haven't factored in tequila. But
Yeah.
I would consider that more of a shot. But
Yeah.
these days, I think people are drinking tequila more because
Yeah.
it's trendy, tasty, not the kind of cheap stuff that people just shot.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
But yeah, in terms of the mixes, I would kind of recommend doing it in a sort of 3-to-1 ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the 35 litres of spirits, then you should get 3 times that. So that's 105 litres of mixer.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, depending on what spirits you're getting, you should just work out what the ratios are. So if it's predominantly vodka and gin,
Then
you should be having predominantly lemonade, soda, and tonic water.
Fine. Okay.
Because most people don't drink vodka and Coke. Most people don't drink gin and Coke.
Yeah. Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes
And in
sense.
terms of your shots, so I would suggest just getting 2 types of shots. So commonly tequila and tequila rosé,
Okay.
or tequila rosé and sambuca, something like that. Okay. And what I'd normally say I would say get the equivalent of one shot for every single person who drinks of each.
Okay, so 150 shots of tequila and 150 shots of like sambuca or something.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Those are single shots rather than doubles, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Double shots would be really intense.
Yeah, so that's 300 drinks.
Yeah.
Because you're having 150, 300 drinks, 25 mils. That's 7.5 litres of shots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for the most part, I think the tequila rosé bottle is normally 70 cl.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, so that's about 10 of those, 10 or 11 of those,
mm-hmm.
which might sound like a lot, but what you need to bear in mind is that there is going to be some relative or groomsman or bridal party member who's going to get a shot tray.
Yeah.
Make a whole tray of shots. First of all, half of them are going to fall.
Yeah.
Half of them are going to be spilt along the tray.
Yeah.
And then they're going to get lost.
Yeah. I agree. Also, like you said, people then take them onto the dance floor and things as well. And actually what I've noticed at weddings is that it's the tequila rosé that gets finished the quickest.
Yeah.
It won't last the whole night. So especially if you know your crowd is really into shots and partying and stuff, then I think always have a bit extra. Yeah. Because that's what tends to run out.
And then obviously the additional things are wine. So if you've got 20 tables, I'd say get a bottle of each per table and then a few extra. So if you've got 20 tables, get 20 bottles of red, 20 bottles of wine, and then perhaps an extra 5 of each.
Do you think you need rosé as well? Or again, depends on your crowd.
You need rosé.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think most
I'd be
people
really
would
sad
get
if there was no rosé on my table.
Yeah, but I mean, the wine is more of a kind of traditional thing that you do at dinner, right?
Yeah.
You're having dinner.
Yeah.
I think it's traditionally more for sort of European, British cuisine.
Yeah.
That you have wine with your meal. I don't think you necessarily need a glass of rosé with your butter chicken.
Yeah. Well. Okay, fine. That all makes sense. That was a lot of maths, but I actually feel by you explaining it, when you first did the newsletter, I had to read it like 3 times to understand it because you know how I feel about maths. But I feel like you saying it, I followed it really well. So
I hope so, because I was also losing myself in points of it. But
no, it made sense.
I think it made sense when I caught up with myself.
I think people hopefully find that really useful as well.
Yeah.
I think just a few other things to note. I think we have to do a whole other separate episode on continuing with bars and just...
Yeah, I mean, this is just a broad overview, right?
Yeah.
I think, if we kind of package up and finish with buying your own alcohol, I think the next step would just be discussing getting a bar company and the benefits of that. Yeah. And we mentioned it already, but all of that hassle, aka everything that I just discussed, is not going to be something you have to worry about if you get your own bar company. But it's not just that, there's additional things that you get. So I mean, recently at weddings we've seen loads of cool things that the bar companies have done. So they've got the Flair kind of cocktail makers, they've got those smoke guns, they have nice displays where they put all the martini glasses on. We saw limbo shots
on the dance floor.
The bartenders go onto the dance floor, they have like a long stick which they've covered in LEDs, and then you do the limbo and then you get a shot straight from the bottle. It's great. I've seen a drinks trolley which they take to the couple and then make a fresh cocktail in front of them. And I think these are all really nice touches, and again it goes over and above just saying, oh, we have alcohol at our wedding and we got it for this price. There are certain things that you're getting which you don't really factor in when you're solely looking at a spreadsheet and looking at the financials.
Yeah, I think exactly as you said, like we'll go into this next time, but I think it elevates the whole guest experience.
Yeah.
And I think guests, especially when there are cocktails and there is like a flair bartender and they are like throwing their mixers in the air and they're like dancing and like getting on the bar and like doing a little routine, like all these things just add to the whole event.
Sounds like you're describing bagatelle or something.
Yeah, well, sometimes they can be really vibey like that. And I think you have to bear in mind that if you aren't having a bar company and it is just your caterers serving the drinks, for the most part, they aren't trained bartenders. They very much are just waiting staff that are mixing a vodka and a lemonade or a vodka and Coke. So there won't be that whole experience. There won't be that whole guest experience. And even in terms of being sometimes efficient and quick with things, because obviously that's not their first role. Yeah. A bar team are also really good at managing queues and just making sure everyone's kind of served quite quickly.
Yeah, because this is what they do all the time, right?
So they're naturally going to be quicker. And again, queuing for drinks and that whole experience of waiting for like half an hour to get a drink, it is really annoying for guests at weddings.
That can like ruin a wedding.
No, it can.
If the queue's too long and people can't drink.
Yeah.
People get really antsy.
They do.
And that's not even if they're just alcoholics. It's just people just have an expectation of wanting to go to the bar, have a few drinks. And if they can't get to the bar, that can be really frustrating. I think particularly for older people. Yeah. Because young people, for the most part, I guess, are happy to queue. But I think if there's a lot of young people crowding around the bar and then an LD person's at the back and can't get a drink, they're not going to experience the wedding as well as you'd like them to.
Yeah, no, I agree. But no, that was a really good summary / math lesson on how to plan your alcohol, and hopefully
I really hope I didn't make a mistake, because
No.
I'll never live that down.
No, I don't think you did.
I hope so.
Let's listen to it back first. But no, I think it was really helpful. And I think even for me to listen to it compared to reading it, I think I found it really great. So I will definitely be sending this episode to our couples who will inevitably ask, hey, do you know how much alcohol we should get for our wedding?
Yeah. Even though that was the first question you asked at the beginning of this podcast.
But I did that with the aim of you going through your special equation that you've made up.
Right.
So yeah, hopefully you found this useful, guys. Whenever we next talk about bars, we'll go into more about bar companies and bar logistics, physical bars, all the other parts of it. But this was kind of more just the alcohol side of things. So hopefully you found it useful, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys. Please like, follow, and subscribe for more.
Thanks for listening.
Please like, follow, subscribe for more.